Hey everybody, Eric Dorward here with the Spartan Rocketry Club, continuing our build of the Estes Mini Mean Machine. Now, I don't usually incorporate this particular step into my videos, but I figured it might as well, 'cause I haven't done this in a while, at least on camera. So at this point, I am part of the way through the finishing process. So I've already put on my wood fill step, and this stuff, basically for this, there's so little fin. I needed maybe like half a teaspoon. Probably could have gotten away with a quarter teaspoon and like 1 or 2 drops of water, and that was more than enough to cover what I needed to cover. And as you can see here, I got a decent amount kind of onto the tube itself, which isn't a particularly big deal. One thing to quickly mention about this stuff, wood fill, is quite good at filling in the thread, the spiral of the tube, if you wanted to go about doing that. Now, this tube in particular seems to be pretty tightly wound, so I don't really feel like that's even close to being necessary. But if you wanted to, you could paint a stripe, just follow the spiral, and go to town. I am actually going to disassemble this for the moment because I don't really need it now. But the next step is to grab a piece of sandpaper and sand off virtually all of the wood fill. The purpose of the wood fill is to get into the grains and fill them up. So if you were to be able to magnify the wood, it would look like a whole bunch of like plateaus and valleys, essentially. We want to be able to fill in the valleys. That's the grain. And in doing that, there are a bunch of different ways you could do it. I mean, you could sand all the plateau parts all the way down into the grain, but that would remove a lot of wood and take just about forever. So the easier way, and you get a better finish this way, I think, is to break out the wood fill. And so the goal here is that when I painted it on, I put it into the valleys, but I've also put it on top of the plateaus as well. So in sanding this down, I want to get almost all of it off. So like right now, these are white. When I'm done sanding, I want them to be more, not entirely back to the wood color, but largely. I do not want them to be white anymore. So I'm going to go over this just using my typical little bit of sandpaper here. I'm also going to go after the tube too. Probably just do that to start. And again, I didn't put this stuff on purpose. It was kind of just, I wasn't super accurate with the brush, and I got stuff off of the fin and into the tube and just spread it out this way. So there we go with that. Actually, no, I'm going to put down a piece of newsprint because this stuff, sand from this, gets everywhere, and I'd like to have it somewhat contained. All right, so I'm just going to go, and I'm going to sand kind of in circles where I can, but as I get close to the joint, it's just going to be back and forth. But over each fin, with the goal here of getting rid of most, if not all, of the wood fill that I've painted on. Blow some of the dust off as I go. All right, let's just do a quick test here. It's certainly going in the right direction. One thing I want to be careful of is the rounded edge here. So I can feel the rounded edge here is quite rough. So I need to make sure that I'm at least sanding over it. Like so. I'm not trying to reshape it. I just want to remove any of the material, the wood fill that I put on there. This is that's probably pretty good. It's not back to white. There are a couple like here and here. It's more white, then it's less white here, but it seems pretty good. Now you can certainly still see the grain, the dark spots, the streaks in this, and that's not going to go away. But when we paint over it with final color, those streaks will be gone. What we don't want to see is the pits from the groove, from the from the grain. So anyway, continuing the process. I'm not going to do all of this right now. I'll do like half of it, I guess, on camera here, and then we'll move on to the next step. This is definitely makes a mess. I try to do this like where a place that's easy to vacuum, essentially, because that seems to be the best way to get rid of the dust after the fact. All right, so let's just flip it over here. Getting into down in here where there's the launch lug, this can be kind of messy. So I'll do my best to kind of bend the sandpaper in there to get rid of whatever's on the tube in between the launch lug, but that's not much of that's going to come off, unfortunately. Certainly exciting footage, to be sure. Do yourself a favor too when you're doing this. Like, if you see that there are obvious spots where it's more white or less white, try to sand the spots that are more white. Try to ignore the ones that are less white, because the white is what you want to get rid of. All right, so that's pretty good. This I've already done this side, so I'm going to do this side too, and then I think we'll probably take a time out from the sanding. I'll do the rest off camera. It's not particularly vital that you see me sand all 4 fins, but it is worth seeing like what the goal here is. It is a good idea to blow the dust off every once in a while, because dust does make it kind of hard to see what still needs to be done and what spots are in pretty good shape. The edges seem to get done faster than the middle for whatever reason. Not sure why that is. All right, so that's probably pretty good. I'm going to just run the sandpaper over the rounded edges here. Not trying to reshape them again, just trying to get rid of any of the excess wood fill that might still be clinging to it that I would have missed in the initial sanding. The initial sanding doesn't really do a good job of getting rounded bits. Okay, now these 2 sides, actually I'm going to quickly just sand the tube all around. And you'll notice I'm sanding this both directions. It's hard to get, it's easy to get in the crack like this. It's hard to get in this one, so I'm going to do that from the other direction here momentarily. So switching this around. Mostly just to get down into that crack right by the joint. This side. Okay. All right. Now, the next step is I'm going to apply some sanding sealer. This is liquid. It has the same viscosity pretty much as paint. So use a paintbrush. Before I do this, though, well, I'm only going to do it on the 2 fins that I actually finished. I'm not going to do it on the body tube, although I suspect I'm probably going to slop onto the tube itself, and I'm just going to spread it out kind of like I did here. But before I do that stuff, I need to use a rag or, I don't know, a sock or something in order to dust these off, because I don't want to get the sawdust underneath the paint. So I'm going to make this go away here for a second. I'm actually just going to use my shirt quickly, because, it's a cloth, I guess. And I'm going to get the tube and the fins that I have painted. So there we go. This feels nice and smooth right now. Pretty smooth anyway. How smooth it is, I mean, that's kind of hard to gauge, but it's certainly more smooth than it was to begin with. All right, this stuff, again, it's a liquid. I bought it at a craft store, and I'm just going to squirt out the tiniest little bit of this stuff. This actually goes a pretty long way. I might need more, but yeah. So I'm going to brush it on. I really don't want a thick layer. I want this to be pretty thin. So go light. Make it a subtracting process rather than an additive process. It can be kind of hard to see what you've done here since this is clear. The good news is it's kind of glossy, so you can use the light to show you, like, see where it's reflecting and where it's not. That's usually a pretty good gauge. And I can see that I've got some globs here on the edge. That you can actually see reasonably well because it is, if you have enough of it, it looks white. You don't want it to be white anywhere. Okay. There we go. And the last side here. And I can see I had it globbed over the fin edge again, so I don't want that. So I'm just going to brush it off. Any place that you see a white blob, that's too much. And there it goes. Now, the sanding sealer dries in like 30 minutes. You can sand it in less than an hour, so that's nice. This stuff, on the other hand, takes significantly longer to dry. Could be worse. It could be white primer spray paint, which I don't even try to sand for like 3 days until that's truly dried out. But this is definitely the part of the process that takes the longest calendar time, just because it's not a fast process. Last thing I'll say is when you add this stuff, make sure that you do one side of the fin, then the other in short order, because it is liquid. And although there's some protection right now from the fact that we've put on the the filler, their wood filler first, the fins are still made out of wood, and they will deform if one side of them is wet and the other side isn't. That's why I made sure I did these two fins and not like this side and this side when I was sanding earlier. Typically, I would just do all the sanding, then all of this, but yeah, I didn't want to waste all that much time on a video. So in the meantime, I am going to finish sanding. I'm going to finish painting the stuff on, and then it will go down into my spray paint area and get a coat of white primer. We'll pick it up from there. All right, so thanks for watching. I will see you in the next video.